We're now going to talk about how we can find real zeros. So we're going to use everything that we just learned to find the real zeros of 2x cubed plus x squared minus 13x plus 6. This is our polynomial function. And when I do this, the first thing I want to know is my possible zeros and my number of positive and negative zeros. So we're going to use the rational zero theorem first, which says that my denominator is factors of 2, which are 1 and 2, and my numerator is factors of 6, which is 1, 2, 3, and 6. And so our possible zeros are plus or minus 1 over 1, plus or minus 1 over 2, plus or minus 2 over 1. 2 over 2 we already have, so I'm going to skip that one. 3 over 1, plus or minus 3 over 2, and plus or minus 6 over 1. So these are all of my possible zeros, and I'm actually going to write this out just a little bit differently in just a moment, but right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so there's 12 possible zeros. Remember, the plus or minus doubles that. Okay, the other thing that I want to look at is how many are positive and how many are negative. So I'm going to look for sign changes in the original. There's 1 sign change, 2 sign changes. That means for my positive, there's 2 positive zeros. There's 2 zeros here for the positive case. The negative takes just a little bit more work. I've got to first rewrite all the odd ones to be opposite signs. Remember, we only change the odd ones, the even ones stay the same. And here we only have 1 sign change, so for my negative zeros, we only have 1 zero. Oh, and I lied about the positives. There's either 2, but there might be 0. Okay, so now I know that I have 1 negative, 2 positive, and there's 12 possible. All we need to do is start looking for them. So I'm going to rewrite this real quick. We've got positive 2, negative 2 or 0, negative 1, and we had plus or minus 1. Oh, this is where I wanted to rewrite it. So we've got, going from smallest to biggest, 1/2, 1, 3/2, 2, 3, 6. These are my positives, and for my negatives, I'm going to have minus 1/2, minus 1, minus 3/2, minus 2, minus 3, and minus 6. So I'm going to pick a number, and I kind of want to pick negative 3 to start with, because the chances are good it's not this one unless there's a bunch of 1s. So I'm not going to deal with the 6. Let's deal with the negative 3 first. And so I'm picking this because if I find it, then I'm done, and if I don't, I'll know somewhere of where to look. So we're going to take our original, the 2x, and we're going to write this in. Well, let's make that a little bit smaller. In our synthetic division, we're going to put a negative 3 in. We've got a 2, a 1, a negative 13, and a 6. I bring down the 2, that gives me a minus 6, that gives me a minus 5, which gives me a positive 15, which gives me a 2, which gives me a negative 6, and it gives me a 0. That's what I'm looking for. That means this is a 0, and I found my 1 negative, which means I'm all done looking at these. I found the only negative I can have. There's no reason to look for any more negatives. And keep in mind that what we have left now is 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. And notice that for our sign changes, we still have 2, so there's 2 or 0 left. And just as importantly, notice that now that I pulled this 3 out, I also know it can't be 6. Because all I have left is the 2, and it can't be a 3, and it can't be a 3/2. So I've just made my list a lot smaller in checking. The other thing I should point out, notice that this is a lower bound because it alternates in sign every other one. So it wouldn't even be worth checking minus 6 if minus 3 didn't work. So these are the only 3 we have left to check. And as we're looking at this, there's 2 things we can do. We can either keep working through this with our division, which is what I'm going to do, or if you look at this, you may notice that this does in fact factor. And so if you want to factor it, at this point you can. As soon as you only have 3 numbers left, you can factor. Well, I'm kind of excited about the fact I only have 3 left to choose. So I'm going to pick the biggest one, the 2, and let's just see what happens with the 2. So we've got 2 minus 5 and 2. Bring down the 2, that's a 4, that's a minus 1, that's a minus 2, and there's a 0. And notice, again, I have my 0. So again, I found one of my positives. That means I've got one more positive. And notice that that removes this from being an option, because what's left is 2x minus 1 equals 0. Well, there's only one thing we really want to do with this. Just solve for x. Let's add 1 to both sides. 2x equals 1, divide by 2, and x is 1/2. So I have successfully found my zeros for the polynomial function p of x equals 2x cubed plus x squared minus 13x plus 6. Another way of writing this in factored form is to write this as x plus 3, x minus 2, and x minus 1/2. And we'll throw an extra 2 on the outside to account for that 2. So when we distribute this through, we end up with our 2x cubed. So that's all we need to do. We have our answer now, and we're done.